Good afternoon. Today finds the Democrats in disarray, and we're going to find out here real soon whether that disarray extends to abandoning the defense of Israel and, frankly, the defense of America when it comes to an unlawful court that the United States and Israel are not members of. We know for sure in the past that the International Criminal Court has targeted American soldiers, and if we don't take a stand against that now, they will do it again. And so I want to thank Senators Risch and Cotton for their leadership on this issue. You'll hear from them more about that in just a moment. The other issue, as we all know, on the floor these days is nominations. And as you all know, the Democrats made a big deal and blocked the nomination of John Ratcliffe to CIA last week. Ultimately, he ended up getting 74 votes on the floor, and that's going to be the case. I mean, they can block these votes, but these folks, we're going to continue to press on and get them confirmed, and they can do this the hard way or the easy way. If they want to continue to obstruct and delay, we're going to continue to grind and grind and grind, and we'll do that through the weekend if necessary. So I'm hopeful, particularly on these noms that we know have broad bipartisan support that have come out of the committees with big margins, that they allow the President to get his people into place so that he can implement his agenda. And we will work with him to make sure that that happens. And so I'm going to flip it now to our colleague, Senator Risch.
Thank you very much, Leader. First of all, you will recall that President Trump placed sanctions on the ICC before he left office. President Biden immediately took those off. Ever since then, as ranking member and now chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, I've been working to put those sanctions back on. I want to thank Senator Thune for his leadership, Senator Cotton for his leadership and help on this important issue. It's been very well near a full year since the Democrats obstructed this bill, and I'm glad that Republicans in both the House and the Senate and the White House are taking action to protect American sovereignty, the sovereignty of American citizens, and the rights of our ally Israel. But yet I'm glad a sizable number of House Democrats voted for this bill not once but twice. I expect we'll see Democrat support here in the Senate as well. How much remains to be seen. When the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense minister defending their country against brutal attack, the ICC greatly exceeded its mandate. This move was clearly political. It's just another example of politicization and anti-Semitism that has become endemic across a number of international organizations. The first objective of a court of justice is to recognize right from wrong. The ICC greatly fell down on that, on what is incumbent upon them. Any entity that would put the leader of Hamas and the leader of Israel in the same bucket and treat them the same doesn't know right from wrong. This needs to end. It's past time for us to pass this legislation and sanction those responsible for this decision and show the ICC that it won't tolerate, we won't tolerate the corruption there. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think Senator Cotton is on the floor, obviously, with this issue. So a couple quick questions.
Leader Thune. Thank you. It's like running four corners offense here. On this memo from the OMB here, I mean, do you expect Republicans, and I'd be curious about some of your colleagues here, do you expect Republicans to say, okay, this is the executive branch, or draw a line in the sand and say this is the legislative branch, we have the power of the purse, we're going to push back on that, we're going to protect our prerogatives? Do you think this is a dangerous situation to have the administration try to claim so much power so quickly without clarity over administration, over the public?
Well, I think they are clarifying it, and I think this is not unusual for an administration to pause funding and to take a hard look and scrub of how these programs, how they're being spent, and how they interact with a lot of the executive orders that the President signed. And I think that's the main criteria they're using is, does this implicate, do the executive orders implicate funding in this particular way? They have taken certain things, I think, off the table. Some of you have asked specifically about programs, any program that directly benefits an individual, Medicaid, SNAP, those types of programs are unimpacted by this. What is impacted, obviously, is DEI, the Green New Deal, things like that. And so those are in direct contradiction with the EOs the President signed earlier this week. So they're providing
the Green New Deal involve major infrastructure projects.
And they're providing additional clarity and guidance on that. And hopefully they will further clarify what exactly will be impacted by this. But I don't think it's unusual for an administration to pause. They certainly did that. Biden did that in 2021 with respect to funding for the border wall. But I think, Senator Risch, did you want to speak to that?
Well, very briefly. Look at this from a 50,000-foot standpoint to begin with. For all of you who haven't noticed, this is a different day in Washington, D.C. The President of the United States wants to do something about inflation. Where does inflation start? It starts at government overspending, and particularly when it's deficit spending. We're going in debt $1 trillion every 100 days. The best way to start going after inflation is to ratchet that back. What he has said is, let's pause for 90 days. This is a work in progress. Everybody take a deep breath, stay calm. Every one of these programs is going to be looked at. He didn't say, well, we're going to do a 2-year study, blah, blah, blah. He said 90 days, we're going to look at it, and it's working. I've talked to Secretary Rubio several times over the weekend and on Monday because of questions from my colleagues, questions from you, questions from a lot of people is, how's this going to go down? Well, the way it's working is there is constant input on programs going in right now that are being looked at. One of the best things that's happened about it is we have, from foreign relations, from intelligence, we've tried to get information out of these agencies, and man, it is tough, as you all know. Now that the agencies realize their programs are on the chopping block, they're running out of their cubby holes in mass, showing us information that we've been trying to get. This is going to work. Everybody stay calm. We'll get this done, and we'll reduce spending. Thank you.
Assume that all of you
regarding sanctions on ICC, regarding sanctions on ICC, among other things, ICC also investigating Russian clients in Ukraine. Do you think American sanctions may impact this effort?
Well, I mean, I think for member nations, all the work that they do, all we're simply saying is that Americans, soldiers, the U.S., Israel are not members of the ICC, and if they're going to target American citizens, then obviously we're going to impose sanctions. So it's a fairly straightforward bill. There are questions around, who all might be in the periphery impacted by that, but the bottom line is the United States and Israel are not members of what we think is an unlawful court. This court is targeting American citizens, and in this case, obviously targeting the Prime Minister of Israel. And so we think it's important to take a stand on that.
Our military leaders are called tracking the pacing threat that we face in the Indo-Pacific. And one of the steps the President has taken is to freeze foreign military grants, including to Taiwan. What do you see that as sending the wrong signal to Beijing when it comes to security in the Taiwan Strait?
Well, again, I would argue, and again, I think we'll get clarity on this with time. But I think any of these funding decisions are not unusual for a new administration. They're pausing, taking a look at where money's being spent, how it's being spent, and ensuring that it's spent wisely and well in accordance with this administration's plans. And I think, as I said earlier, the executive orders give a lot of guidance about what the administration's priorities are, and I think that the funding will end up following that.
Can we assume that you've heard from organizations